to come just because I told you to yesterday, but thank you. Hope you're well. Morning finally made it today. I feel bad. It feels like I bullied you to come. I hope you're well. Right, we are live on YouTube. I always do this at the beginning of the videos, and now the editor will have to cut out me like babbling on to people, but good to have you here. Awesome. Hello everybody, it is the 19th of September. This is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the latest AI news and updates of the day, as well as answering live questions from the audience who are coming in from TikTok and increasingly from YouTube. Yesterday on our live we had about 40 questions and comments coming in from YouTube, which was fantastic because just a few weeks ago nothing, it was all TikTok. So it's great to have people on both channels and to be able to take questions from both places. If you are on TikTok and you want to see what's on the screen, if you want a nicer 4K version as well, head over to YouTube, subscribe there, and you can see everything. It's much better, higher quality as well. Or if TikTok's easier, stay there, does not matter. And all of these videos will be clipped, edited, and put onto YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed to see them. And they're put into a newsletter which comes out every single morning at 8 AM UK time, which is a written summary of what's been covered in the previous live. And that's an easier way to get to the meat of the issues without me waffling on for quite so long. I did a video the other day about introversion. So I'm very introverted. I don't take a huge amount of energy from talking, from being on stage, from being on camera, etc. It does not give me energy, it drains energy. However, I'm still doing 2 hours of lives a day. Yesterday I did 3 hours of performing, and it is something that you can learn. And I did a video for the other introverts out there, basically saying, look, I know it's hard, I know it's not a comfortable thing to do, but it is a skill that can be learned. And I'm hoping from the comments on that video at least that some people are stepping up and getting in front of cameras, starting to share their expertise, because generally a lot of you introverts out there, a lot of us we have things to say, we're just not confident to do so. So I highly recommend hopping on a camera and starting to talk. This is a very good time to be doing so, to be creating content. Right, we are going to be talking about a number of things. So obviously Mark Zuckerberg's Meta Ray-Ban disaster up on stage, and I'm going to talk about why I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making it out to be. We're also going to talk about Huawei, who are punching back hard, with following on China's banning of Nvidia chips. Also want to look at Chrome. It's getting an AI upgrade, which is very exciting. And then a few other things. Massive Attack are pulling their songs from Spotify because of the CEO's investment in AI military. And I want to continue talking about Peter Yang's 15 hot takes. I think we made it through the first 5 or so, and I just wanted to bring them up. I also have an article, a really good article from Simon Willison, who you should all be following. He has probably one of the best blogs on artificial intelligence out there, and so I wanted to quickly highlight an article that he has put out yesterday. But first, let's hop in and look at Mark Zuckerberg. So you've probably seen the video footage by now. If not, I recommend going and having a look. There were two I don't know how to say this without swearing it. There were two large mistakes which occurred during the announcement of their new Meta Ray-Bans. So the first one was they had a staff member who was trying to make a salad. No, he was trying to make a sauce, excuse me, a Korean sauce to go on his sandwich. And the Meta Ray-Bans basically just crapped out, and they kept telling him to shave some pear, and he kept asking, like, what do you want me to do first? What do you want me to do first? And it would get stuck in a loop. It felt a bit like using Siri. You know, when you're trying to ask Siri a question and it is just not working, it's just not happening, and you keep asking and Siri keeps responding in a stupid way. It felt a lot like that, but with what is supposedly a new cutting edge technique. And then the other awkward fumble was they were trying to demonstrate the video call. So they were showing live on screen what Zuckerberg could see. He could see the audience in front of him, and he could see the text coming up in the screen. Really cool. But there was meant to be a video call coming through, and he couldn't pick it up, and it kept ringing, and then he'd say, oh, don't worry about it, then it rang again, and etc, etc, and it fumbled and it was a mess. So people have been focusing very much exclusively on these fumbles. This is, I mean, it's easy. It's a very easy target. It's a billionaire who has spent a lot of money on this technology, and their launch of it was a bit crap. However, I think that kind of misses the point. Yes, the launch was embarrassing, and I'm sure heads are going to roll for whoever produced that show. But these things happen when you are doing anything live. If any of you have given workshops or demonstrations or pitches like this, you know these things happen. Ideally, you don't want it to happen in front of the world on a live stream and, you know, thousands of people in the room, but that unfortunately is when it's most likely to happen. I'm sure they rehearsed this 50, 60 times before they got up on stage, and then boom, this time it crapped out. This is not to garner sympathy for billionaires and large companies, but just to point out that this doesn't actually undermine the tech itself. I think the tech itself is probably quite cool. It's obviously not ready yet. This is a bit like Elon Musk throwing a ball bearing or whatever it was. No, it wasn't Elon Musk. It was someone threw a ball bearing at the Cybertruck window and it exploded. Just because it's not here during the demonstration doesn't mean it won't get there. Cybertruck's probably a terrible example there. I rescind that. So here we go. If you can't resist the urge to check your phone over and over, even if you're out with friends, Meta has a solution. Check your glasses instead. So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to replace the phone. The phone has been the standard device for interfacing with the internet and now artificial intelligence for, gosh, decades now. The promise of glasses is to preserve the sense of presence that you have with other people, said Mark Zuckerberg at the MetaConnect 2025 keynote. I think we've lost it a little bit with phones, and we have an opportunity to get it back with glasses. I agree. You walk down the street or you're sitting in a restaurant and you'll notice most people are craning down like this. I wonder if there's going to be a neck issue with people in the next few years, because everyone is walking around like this. There is very little sense of presence. In London, where I live, it's a nightmare trying to navigate through the streets because everyone's staring at their telephones. And you see it in restaurants too, with people, whenever there is a lull, whenever there is, you know, a momentary spot of distraction, people just get their phones out. We are not comfortable being bored anymore. We're not comfortable filling our own time and our own space. So I can see where they're coming from. The promise of glasses is to preserve the sense of presence that you have with other people. I don't know about that. This means you have a 24/7 feed running through your face. So yes, you might be physically looking at somebody, but you're going to have an overlay with, well, whatever you want. God, you could have TikTok flashing around on the screen in front of you. You could have Subway Surfers playing in the corner while you're having a conversation with your loved one. So I don't know if it's going to preserve the presence. In reality, Meta wants its own hardware to eat into the market share of Apple and Google. Yes, so it doesn't have to keep siphoning profits to them via app stores. This is TechCrunch. But nevertheless, this is an angle Meta is taking to sell its most sophisticated smart glasses yet, the Meta Ray-Ban Display, which the company hopes one day could eclipse the market share of smartphones. So I think everybody in the market, the hardware manufacturers are looking for the next physical format, which is not necessarily a phone. Sam Altman has purchased Johnny Ive's company. Johnny Ive, the designer of the iPod and most of Apple's products for the last few decades. And they're working on a physical device, which will be AI first, obviously. So there's a lot of people working in this space. We saw some early attempts which didn't really work, like the Rabbit R1 and the Humane Pin, which was like this. It would be a little device you could wear which could see what you could see, and it would allow you to have AI access, but nobody's really cracked this yet, so we're still using telephones. I'm not sure if it's going to be glasses, and if it is glasses, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple do what they normally do, and they wait and they wait and they wait, and then they release the version of the glasses. So they wait until the technology has become sophisticated enough and people are accepting of wearing the glasses, and then Apple swing with their own product. There is also rumors, so the new iPhone 17, the actual processing unit, the actual inner workings of the iPhone 17 is tiny. It's like this. In fact, it's this is not it, but it's that kind of size, and very, very thin as well. So there is a discussion of whether Apple are trying to minimize their form factor as much as possible to get ready for some other kind of form factor like glasses, because that requires having the computer components very, very, very small. And maybe they're pushing in that direction with miniaturization, because with the new iPhones, they didn't just go larger and go more powerful. They focused on squeezing it down to it is literally this kind of size, the internal workings. So I think I'm a bit more bullish and positive on what what Meta showed at Meta Connect. I think it went horribly wrong. I think they need to iron out bugs, but it's still extremely futuristic to have a display here and to be able to control it via like a haptic wristband. I'm not sure what they call it, which allows you to interface with your glasses without you having to yell at it or, touch things. I think it's absolutely amazing. Here we go. It's a Meta neural band, a wristband that uses surface electromyography, SEMG, to pick up on signals sent between your brain and your hand when performing a gesture. So Meta's keynote did not go into specifics of how Zuckerberg was writing those texts, but according to Reality Labs research on SEMG, users can write out messages like this by holding their fingers together as if they were gripping a pen and writing out the text. That's sci-fi. I mean, it's picking up on the small motions of your hand as if you are writing something. That is some sci-fi. Again, I can't swear, but it's some sci-fi stuff. Let's say that. And that is so exciting that we're moving away from keyboards, we're moving away from screens, and we're moving to be able to do this. It's pure sci-fi. We're just early. That's all. And it's easy to laugh at these things, but we might look back at this in 5-10 years time through our Meta glasses or whatever the equivalent is then, and be like, yeah, that's when it started. I'm more positive that that's probably going to be the way, rather than this being a complete and utter joke, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm more excited than most people, but I understand why people laughed, and it was very funny. Cool. I'm going to hop over to Google. Google. Let me see if it's on my telephone, unfortunately. There's a hackathon happening. Is it Neos? Yes, it is. Nope. Public sector hackathon. They have too many hackathons. There is a hackathon. There it is. That's with Nuiti. I'll shoot a video about this later. But there's a travel company called Nuiti. I'll work out how to say it before I shoot the video. A company called Nuiti. They raised a lot of money recently. They're working with Google, and they're doing a hackathon. This is not the one though. Now that I know the name of the company though, Google Hackathon. At the end of September, moving into. Okay, I can't find it. I've been sent the link, so I will spread the link out later. It's going to be the end of September, moving into October, and it's going to be a hackathon at the Google offices here in London. There's going to be a kickoff, then you have 5 days to build. You can have teams of up to 4, I believe, and the top prize is 10,000, and then I think 5,000, then 3,000 plus travel tickets. You get to travel somewhere. I will post the full details. I'm either going to be at the final event, the last day, which I think is the 1st of October, or I'm kind of thinking about participating. I don't know how I'm going to carve out time to do that, but I'm thinking about putting together a team and actually participating, because it's a really cool topic. It's to do with travel. So I've got a few ideas for travel applications using AI, using Google Maps. I won't go into a huge amount of details, but things that I'd like to build, which would be really useful, because I personally use AI when I travel a lot to help me find the interesting things to go and see, and it is perfect for that. And I think there's some really cool products to be made in that space. So there is a hackathon. I will put a video up on my TikTok, and it will go to all the other channels later. So if you are interested in this hackathon, check there for details later today, and I'll post out a video, and I will be there personally, either on the final day, which is October the 1st, or for the whole thing. I have not quite decided. I only found out about it last night. So I wanted to talk about Google's AI. They're putting Gemini into Chrome. So last week we found out that Google are not having to divest Chrome. Sorry, let me rephrase that because that was a lot of negatives. There was an antitrust suit against Google, and if they had lost it, one of the potential outcomes was they would have to sell. They'd have to divest Chrome and get rid of it, basically. That is not happening. So it looks like they've got a bit more confidence in Chrome. They know they're going to be able to continue developing it. So they have now announced Gemini inside of Chrome. So they are turning Chrome into an AI browser. So in the same way that Perplexity have Comet, and that browser company has Deer, who now belongs to Atlassian, there are various companies moving into AI-powered browsers, which makes a lot of sense because we spend a huge amount of time in our web browser. So if you can move your AI to the forefront of that, that puts you in a really good position. And Chrome is, I think Chrome has, it's like 2 trillion users? Not trillion, excuse me, billion. 3.5 billion users. So almost half the world uses Chrome. So by putting Gemini into it natively, they've already got Gemini in their actual Google results, but it will appear in the browser itself. Gemini becomes the de facto most used AI on Earth. So I don't know why they've waited this long. I suspect it's got something to do with the divestiture. You wouldn't want to launch this product and then find out, oh, you're not allowed to have Chrome anymore. So a week after being told you don't need to get rid of Chrome, they've said, okay, we're putting AI into Chrome. I'm not going to go through the video because it is, well, it's not a good experience on the live stream, plus it's a lot of corporate babble. But what I wanted to show you is actually using one of Google's other products, Google Notebook, which those of you who have used Notebook LM know how amazing it is. But everyone else, they didn't really advertise it, so it's very poorly known. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to create a new notebook. I'm going to click YouTube. I'm going to paste in the video, and it's going to give me a summary of their video, and I'm able to ask questions. So it's able to read basically YouTube videos and to give you answers from them. So I can say, what are the main features? And it's going to be able to answer that. So it's using Gemini to basically read the video or to watch the video and then provide me with the summary. So summary. The Gemini in Chrome is designed as an AI browsing assistant that is smart, easy to use, and built directly into Chrome. Gemini can compare and summarize information. That's fine. It works across tabs. That's really cool. So it would be able to pull information from one tab to another. Very cool. And is integrated with other Google products. So Google Sheets, Google Docs, etc. Efficiency, tasks previously took 10 to 20 minutes can be completed by Gemini in seconds, sure. And then complex tasks in the future. So soon it will be able to handle more complex tasks, such as being able to pick and order groceries for you. This can be done in the background while you focus on something else. So adding agent mode into Chrome directly. Very cool. It seems kind of mundane, but this is very cool. And they have something called Omnibox. Oh, the Omnibox is just this thing at the top, isn't it? So enhanced Omnibox and AI mode. Complex searching. Users can now ask longer, more complex questions and can continue the conversation with follow-up questions. Contextual assistance. The Omnibox can now use the context of the page view to inform the next steps. Very cool. Interface. Answers and generated responses open up right alongside the page. So if you've used Comet by Perplexity, this is very similar. AI-driven security and annoyance reduction. So scam protection. Chrome will expand its features to improve protection against additional scams, such as sites threatening users with fake viruses, password compromise alerts, spammy notifications, quieter permissions. So it's going to also protect us while we're online. It'd be nice if they could use it to block adverts, but they're not going to do that because they're the ones serving up the adverts. But otherwise, that would be lovely. Anyway, I kind of wanted to show off Google Notebook LM as well, because this is a really cool tool that very few people use. So that saved me from having to actually watch the video. It gave me a summary, what's in the video, and on the right hand side I can generate audio overviews, a video overview, that wouldn't make any sense here but it's useful, mind maps, reports and flashcards. I can also get it to quiz me. So if you have let's say you're watching Andrej Karpathy's introduction to large language models, and that's a big thick 3.5 hour long video, fantastic video, you should watch it, but you could also throw that video into Notebook LM. You could then ask questions of the video. So if there's something that you don't understand, you can ask and Gemini will be able to answer. And you can also get a mind map of it, you can get flashcards, you can get lots of things. In fact, let's go ahead and do it. This is not just a Google demo. It's I genuinely want to show you Notebook because not enough people are using it, and as soon as people use it, they're like, oh, this is a game changer. I'm going to plug that in. So it's probably take a little bit longer because this is a 3.5 hour video. Nope, it is done. So what I can do here is I can click on, let's try a mind map, and I can make a mind map of that 3.5 hour video, and I can also get it to quiz me. You can also get an audio overview, which is basically an AI podcast which has two hosts talking to each other. I did it with some of my own work, which is very bizarre because they talk about me. They're like, and then Kyle went on to say da 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 da. It's like a bit weird, but basically it allows you to learn in multiple modalities. Let's have a look at this. That is rubbish. Okay, I'm going to say that is a bad content. It created a very bad mind map. What are you doing to what are you doing to me, Notebook LM? I'm here talking about how great you are, and you did a terrible mind map. Let's see, try the quiz out. Oh, I'd already done that. Anyway, this is mainly because I didn't want to watch that video live on stream, so I wanted to use Notebook LM. So here we go, quiz. In the pre-training stage of an LLM, what is the primary purpose of data processing step that involves removing URLs from domains associated with malware, spam, and adult content? And then it's multiple choice. So to remove all non-English websites from the training data to ensure the model is trained on high quality and diverse set of documents, to reduce the total size of the dataset to make training faster, and to extract only the raw text and discard HTML markup. So that's one question. So this is going to be B, I think. That's right. This filtering step, that would have been embarrassing if I got that wrong. This filtering step is part of curating the dataset, and then it goes on to the next question. So it's created 10 questions. You can test your understanding of a particular video. Again, this is such a great example of you could use AI just to create a summary of the video and not watch the 3.5 hour long video, but then you rob yourself of learning. Instead, what you can do is use something like Notebook LM to provide quizzes and study notes, and you can talk to the video, and you can deeper your learning. So it's up to you how you use AI. I want to do the quiz now. According to the source, what is the fundamental nature of a base model that results from the pre-training stage? This one? Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do a quiz live on air. As much as I want. That would be a fun live stream. We could do quizzes. Ooh, that's so nerdy. We could do quizzes and have voting. No. We're not doing that. That's far too nerdy. Like a pub quiz for AI knowledge. Ooh. Right. Just checking for questions. Are you new? Yes, that was Notebook LM. The reason I was showing it was I wanted to get a summary of Google's new announcement about Gemini in Chrome, but then I ended up just showing people how to use Notebook LM because I really like it. Gemmalis, love these lives. Great setup for the day. Thank you. This is day 55, I think 55 of doing these lives. So there's 5 a week, which means I'll be doing it for 11 weeks. Wow. Okay, I'm coming up on 3 months. And I'm still all over the place. Right, let's have a look at Huawei. So, a couple of bits of news coming from China and Nvidia and the US, and it's all kind of mixed up. So the context of this is Nvidia, who create the chipsets, the GPUs that we use to train artificial intelligences, have been restricted from selling these chipsets to China. So it's an American company, headquartered in America. They have been restricted from selling chips to China because it's strategic importance, basically. And China has stated that AI is one of the most important strategic investments that they're making. They announced that a few years ago. America has just announced that quite recently. And because of this, Nvidia created lower powered chipsets like the H20, which are allowed to be sold to China. Or it's complicated, but they were specifically built because they're 30% of the power of the more powerful H200 chipset. I know it gets confusing with all these names. And even that got blocked until Trump said, okay, you can sell them to China, but you have to give me 15% of the revenue, to which Nvidia agreed. So it wasn't a tariff, it wasn't a tax, it wasn't on profits or on trade, it was on revenue. So every time they sold one, let's say I sold it for $1,000, I'd have to give 15%. They cost a lot more than that, but I'd have to give 15% directly to the US government, which is unprecedented, and it's a bit of a, I mean, it's a bit mafia, really. It's almost like protection, it's extortion. But Nvidia agreed to that. So the H200 sales were going to go ahead, but we have more complications now where China, a couple of days, 2 days ago, said actually no, we're not buying Nvidia chips. It was specific to a new chip which a lot of Chinese tech companies had put in large orders for. The Chinese government said no, we're no longer doing this, and they have told all of the tech companies that they're not allowed to buy these chips anymore. It's not the H20 specifically, but it's a different chip. But it is China basically saying, we are breaking away from this, we are not playing this game anymore, we're not going to put money in America's pocket, we're not going to put money in Trump's pocket specifically, instead we are going to become self-sufficient. So China do build their own chips, especially Huawei. One of the big problems with their chips though is that they cannot link together. I don't want to get too technical here, but one of the main powers of the Nvidia chips is they have something called NVLink. Basically, it is a way for the chips to communicate to each other. So instead of having these GPUs running independently, they're all linked in this massive data center where they are all kind of talking to each other, and that allows for much faster processing and much faster training of models, and therefore better models. So Huawei have now unveiled a new AI infrastructure meant to help boost compute power and allow the company to better compete with rival chip maker Nvidia. At a keynote at its Huawei Connect conference on Thursday, the timing of this is spectacular. So on Wednesday, I think it was, the Chinese government said, okay, you are no longer allowed to buy Nvidia chips. That's off the board. We're going to become self-sufficient. Whilst Trump was visiting with the king here in England, and Trump's here throwing around a lot of money, I think 150 billion worth of investment, 40 billion of which is AI related. So he's over here showing the world that America is the leading artificial intelligence power, the leading investment power, the big dog. Whilst he was here at state dinners, meeting the king, etc., China dropped this news that now we're not buying Nvidia chips anymore, which is a huge step, because Nvidia right now are the largest company on earth with a $4 trillion market capitalization. They're not just a small independent player; they are the largest company on earth. So I think Beijing knew what they were doing, and now on Thursday, Huawei had a keynote in Shenzhen, announcing SuperPod, Super POD interconnect technology, which can link together up to 15,000 graphics cards, including Huawei's Ascend AI chips. This is the competition to increase compute power. The tech seems to be a competitor to NVIDIA's NVLink infrastructure. Yes, that's exactly what it is, which facilitates high-speed communication between chips. Technology like this is critical for Huawei's better compete with semiconductors like NVIDIA's. While Huawei's AI chips are less powerful than NVIDIA's, being able to cluster them together will give its users access to more compute power, which is needed for training and scaling AI systems. This news comes just a day after China banned domestic tech companies from buying NVIDIA's hardware, including NVIDIA's RTX Pro 600D servers specifically designed for the market in China. So Jensen Huang, the head of NVIDIA, said he was disappointed in the news. I think that's underplaying it a little bit. So yeah, China has banned the chips and they are promoting domestic production with Huawei. The chips at the moment are not as powerful as NVIDIA's, and this is one of the reasons supposedly why DeepSeek have not released a new model. So DeepSeek R2, the successor to R1, was meant to be with us in May. Did not happen, and inside sources in China said that it's because the chips weren't good enough and they were using the Huawei's Ascend AI chips. So in China, they're going to be building better chipsets, obviously. They're going to keep making their chipsets better, and they now have this technology which is like NVLink to be able to cluster them together up to 15,000 graphics cards. So they are preparing to compete. Personally, I think competition is great. It pushes everyone forward. I'm sure this is scaring some people in America in particular. But yeah, we have another player in town, so it's not just NVIDIA anymore. Give me one fantastic example of what ChatGPT can do. I mean, it's a broad question. It's kind of it's like asking what can the internet do? An awful lot. So what can ChatGPT do? That's a very broad question. I'm just trying to think of a recent example. Oh, okay. Here's a recent example. So I have a lot of in the background. I'm teaching myself more about machine learning and the mathematics and how large language models work. I'm not a technical person. I've never purported to be. I cross the intersection between artificial intelligence and business and entrepreneurship and helping people to start businesses by using AI. So I'm not, I don't have a PhD in computer science, etc. But I've been learning that stuff because I find it fascinating. I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of books. Too many. I like to go book shopping in foils and buy far too many books. So one thing I did 2 days ago was I took a photo of my bookshelf in the AI section in particular, and I said, look, can you help me with a learning plan here? Can you help me sequence these books and in which order I should be running through these books? And can you provide any additional YouTube videos or resources that I should be using to supplement these, plus maybe a project that I can work on at the same time? And then I asked, can you ask me clarifying questions? And it asked me about my goals, like what am I trying to do? Are you trying to become a machine learning specialist who's building models? And I was like, no, this is more for hobby, etc. And then it was able to sequence and build a study plan based on the resources I already had, so based on the books, and then fill in any gaps with, it actually pointed me in the direction of a Microsoft course that they've just released, which talked more about visual models, for example. So it was able to not just search information, which is what Google can do, but it was able to synthesize information based on my needs. So I told it what I wanted it to do based on existing resources. These, you can probably see them there, these AI books, too many AI books, and based on online resources as well. And it's able to synthesize all of that together into a learning plan, into a curriculum. So that was a recent fantastic example for me. But I use this stuff every day. So increasingly, these things don't seem as magical as they actually are. But I think we need to step back and think about 3 years ago when this technology was terrible, even 2 years ago when it was terrible. We become used to these things incredibly quickly. And then we start complaining when they don't work. But it's useful to take that perspective of, wait, no, hang on, 2 years ago we couldn't do this. This is basically magic. So I think, yeah, it's really helpful to think of those fantastic examples. So for me, that was one for me recently that was incredibly useful. But I'd love to hear from other people, because that's why this technology is so cool, is because it is so general purpose and we can use it for real problems in our everyday lives. And that is increasingly what people are using it for. We had a study saying that it was based on the 700 million users of ChatGPT, and it showed that usage is now 70% personal. So people are using it for personal problems, for discussing what they should be doing in their lives, for working through things, which is, I mean, the usages there are infinite, almost infinite. Apparently not technical at all, but did English. I did history. I studied modern history. I have an MBA as well, but no, I'm not from a technical background. I have, I'm from a business background. I've started many businesses and still run businesses. Cool. But yes, history was my alma mater. No, that's not right, is it? So Massive Attack. Massive Attack have removed music from Spotify to protest against CEO Daniel Ek's investment in AI military. The band has cited a moral and ethical burden placed on artists by revenue from their work, ultimately funding lethal technologies. So I think this is great that they're bringing attention to this, because I did not know this about Spotify, and it's taken a band the size of Massive Attack to make this well known. So Massive Attack have become the latest act, the first major label one, to pull their catalogue from Spotify in protest at founder Daniel Ek investing $600 million euros, in the military AI company Helsing. Okay, God, if you're gonna have a military AI company, why do you give it such like a hardcore, scary name? Normally they hide and they give these companies that cause mass destruction. Normally they give them very mundane names, but Helsing is hardcore. I guess it's from Van Helsing. In June, ex-venture capital firm Prima Materia led the defense tech firm's latest funding round. Helsing software uses AI technology to analyze sensor and weapon system data from battlefields to inform real-time military decisions. It also makes its own military drone, the HX2, and Ek. So the guy who, the founder of Spotify, is also the chairman of Helsing. Woo! The band made the announcement at the same time that they signed up for a new initiative, No Music for Genocide, in which a group of more than 400 artists and labels are blocking their music from streaming services in Israel. So in a statement, the band said, unconnected to this initiative and in light of the reported significant investments by, 600 million, by its CEO in a company producing military munition drones and AI technology integrated into fighter aircrafts, Massive Attack have made a separate request to our label that our music be removed from the Spotify streaming services in all territories. In our view, the historic precedent of effective artist action during apartheid, South Africa, and the apartheid war crimes and genocide now being committed by the State of Israel renders the No Music for Genocide campaign imperative. In a separate case of Spotify, the economic burden that has long been placed on artists is now compounded by a moral and ethical burden, whereby the hard-earned money of fans and creative endeavours of musicians ultimately funds lethal, dystopian technologies. Enough is more than enough. Another way is possible. A Spotify spokesperson said, Spotify and Helsing are two separate companies. Yeah, they're going to go into damage control mode, but it sounds like this Ek guy, he founded Spotify, and now he's chairman of, and he's invested 600 million euros into Helsing. So they might be separate companies, but they are very, very connected. Interestingly, I saw piracy is on the rise. So back when I was young, we used to pirate using, LimeWire and eMule and Napster, and then it moved to torrent technology, so Pirate Bay, for example, and then music piracy in particular died off because of streaming services like Spotify, and it meant that the the time and effort required to pirate music wasn't worth it when you could just pay, I don't know, $10, $20 now a month for Spotify. People just kind of got lazy and they got used to just paying for the ease. Piracy is now on the rise. One, because the streaming services have cranked their prices up. They've done it, so Spotify, Netflix, etc. They've slowly put their prices up so that previously you'd pay for one streaming service and it'd be a lot less than paying for cable, for example, cable television. Now, if you want all of the various streaming services, you end up paying more than what we used to pay for cable. So they've squeezed the consumer. And also, for reasons like this, people not agreeing with the companies. So piracy is spiking. And there's a really interesting phenomenon in Gen Z where people are buying old MP3 players, and they are pirating music and loading it onto old MP3 players instead of streaming it from Spotify. So using a single-use device again. I don't know how widespread that is, but I think it's a very it's a cool way to resist. So that is me. That's me promoting piracy, isn't it? That's fine. We'll live. I mean, if the money's been spent on military AI drones, then yeah, I'm okay promoting that. Awesome. So good job, Massive Attack, for bringing attention to this, because it looks like other bands were doing it before, but they didn't have the size of Massive Attack. Yeah, to your point, naming Palantir. So Palantir is like, what does that name tell you? Nothing. Most defense and security companies use names like that, so they kind of fly under the radar. You don't call your company something like Helsing generally because it sounds too, well, scary. But Palantir is like, oh, that sounds fine. You wouldn't know what they do. Well, lots of people still don't know what Palantir do. It's very hard to work out what Palantir actually do, but it's, I think, up to no good is a fair assessment. Right, I'm going to jump over to, I started going through these yesterday. It's not really news, just a really cool piece that was put together by Peter Yang. Again, Peter has a YouTube channel, and he also runs this blog called Behind the Craft by Peter Yang. It's creatoreconomy.so. He's also active on X, etc. You can find him if you want to see. But he's written these 15 hot takes on artificial intelligence. I'm finding myself agreeing with nearly every one of them. I'm not sure if that's because I have hot takes or because they're not that hot. Probably a bit of both. But I wanted to keep going through them because they're interesting talking points. So the next one is number 5. I think it's actually number 6, and his numbering's got messed up. It doesn't really matter. AI agents often aren't the right solution. Again, I agree with this. So every startup I talk to is building an AI agent, but agents are expensive and only make sense for complex, valuable tasks. The most valuable agent tasks, coding, research, productivity, also face intense competition from top AI labs. Can you really build another coding agent that's better than OpenAI and Anthropic? So he's built a lovely little flowchart, and this is very similar to something that I included in my AI automation accelerator. Because we did, myself and Brand Knapp put together this accelerator, and one of the questions was, why are you teaching automation and not agents? And the answer to that is, well, you don't always need an agent. In fact, using an agent for a task adds a huge level of complexity, and more often than not, it will go wrong and it will it will make an absolute mess. It's still quite a nascent technology. It's probably where we're going, but right now it's overkill. So instead, you need to look at the task you're trying to perform and match the tool to the task. So Peter has gone ahead and he's made a little flowchart. So do you need AI? This is the first question, really important, because often you don't. So no, use a non-AI workflow. So if you're just moving data from one place to another, lots of people have started doing that with AI, and that's kind of a bad way to do it. You could do it using schema. You can use it, like you can use traditional code to move data around in a system. Using AI adds variability, adds randomness, and it actually makes it worse performing. So a lot of the time you don't need to use AI. You can use traditional code. If you do need to use AI, cool. Is the task complex? No, use an AI workflow. So you don't need to go ahead and build out a whole agent. You can just build an automation. So let's say an email arrives from a customer. That email causes a trigger. This could be in Zapier, this could be in N8N, this could be in make.com, this could be something you've built custom, doesn't matter. It triggers a set of events, and there's a few steps. Some of them might be AI, some of them might be non-AI, and then it spits out a result at the end. That's a workflow. That is not an agent. A lot of people confuse the two. I'm actually going to talk about the difference in a minute using a different article, but lots of companies right now are just sticking the name agent or using the word agentic when all they've done is actually build a workflow. So whenever you see people like selling those N8N templates on social media, most of the time that's a workflow. Nothing wrong with a workflow. They're often better for simpler tasks, but they're not agents. So if your task is not complex, use a workflow. Use an automation sequence. You do not need an agent. Okay, if the task is complex, and we move to the next level. Is your task valuable? If no, again, just use an AI workflow. There is no point investing a huge amount of time and money into building an agent if it's not a valuable task. I would probably nudge this one up above complexity, honestly, because if it's not valuable, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Okay, but if the task is valuable, yes. We'll move to the next stage. High success rate and low cost of error. So I use a quadrant for this when I'm working with companies where we want to find tasks that, when successful, they save a lot of time, they save a lot of money, and when not successful, they don't do much damage. So a good example is you probably wouldn't automate using AI your annual report that gets sent to your investors, because if something goes wrong with that report, there is a huge risk to your company, and you're going to, well, at very least, you're going to look stupid. But worse than that, there could be legal and financial liabilities and problems caused by that. So if the task if the task failing can have a huge impact on your business, you probably don't want to give it to AI. Interestingly, Gartner, the advisory firm, analyst and advisory firm, they just put out a report about the top AI coding tools, and they got it totally wrong. Like, there is a chart which shows the top tools, and I think it's got GitHub Copilot as one of the top ones, which is nonsense. It doesn't have Claude Code on the tool on there at all. It has like an Amazon tool, which I don't think exists or doesn't do what they say it does. They just messed it up. So somebody made such a huge error. I don't know whether they used AI for this, but that makes Gartner look like absolute idiots. And somebody's going to lose their job because they published it, they went wide with it, and that's damaging to the company. So if there's anything that can damage the company because of the error, you probably don't want to use an agent, and you probably don't want to use AI. So do you need AI? Yes. Is the task complex? Yes. Is the task valuable? Yes. Is there a high success rate and a low cost of error? Yes. Then you can use an AI agent. So once you've gone through all of these different decisions, then you can start to look at agents. But until then, there are other ways to do it. You can simplify the task, you can use a workflow, or you can use no AI. So I thought that was a really useful table. It's something I've talked about before, but he's put it in a much better format. I need to up my graphic design so I can create stuff like this. Cool. So I'm going to keep dipping into this article. I linked it in my newsletter. I'll link it again tomorrow, so you can go and check it out yourself. Let me check questions. Okay, I don't think we've got anything. No. Cool. I'm going to go over to the world's ugliest website. Sorry, Simon. So Simon Willison, God, he calls it a weblog, which is the origin of the word blog, is a weblog or a blog. So simonwillison.net is probably one of the best resources for kind of high level thinking about artificial intelligence. Incredibly smart guy, and he writes this weblog. Almost the fact that the site is so basic and ugly is it's kind of flexing because he's just so knowledgeable and he can write so well. So I highly recommend you check out this blog. I wanted to highlight this particular article, which came out, I think, yesterday, where he's talking about agents, because there is a lot of confusion about what an agent is. That confusion is perpetuated by marketing. Lots of companies want to call their AI tools or their AI workflows agents when they are not. So there's a huge amount of confusion in public about what an agent is, and that means lots of things get overblown, lots of things got oversold. This is all possible because there is not an agreed upon definition of agent. So Simon Willison is tackling this, and he says, I think agent may finally have a widely enough agreed upon definition to be useful jargon now. So I've noticed something interesting over the past few weeks. I've started using the word agent in conversations where I don't feel the need to then define it, roll my eyes, or wrap it in scare quotes. So you might see me do this a lot, where I'm like, agent. We're getting to the point where we might not need to do that because we're starting to land on a definition as people who discuss artificial intelligence. Simon says, this is a big piece of personal character development for me. Moving forward, when I talk about agents, I'm going to use this. So here's the definition. An LLM agent runs tools in a loop to achieve a goal. So in a loop is the important thing here. So an LLM agent runs tools in a loop to achieve a goal. I've been very hesitant to use the term agent for meaningful communication over the past couple of years. It felt to me like a ultimate in buzzword bingo. Everyone talked about agents, but if you quiz them, everyone seemed to hold a different mental model of what they actually were. So this is the vagueness of definition allowed a lot of marketing hype and a lot of overselling to creep in because nobody really had a good definition. Otherwise, we could point at a product that somebody was trying to push and say, well, that's not actually an agent, is it? But we haven't been able to do that because we haven't had a general definition. So Simon actually, he started collecting definitions and he crowdsourced 211 definitions on Twitter, which he then took over to AI, and he managed to summarize them into 13 groups inside of Gemini. So there's a lot of noise out there. Jargon terms are only useful if you can be confident that the people you are talking to share the same definition. If they don't, then communication becomes less effective. You can waste time passionately discussing entirely different concepts. That is Reddit. AI subreddits in a nutshell is people arguing back and forward, but most of the time it's because they are not including terms like artificial intelligence. Some people define artificial intelligence as what we would actually call AGI, and then they start complaining that, oh, we don't actually have AI. AI doesn't exist. It's like, well, no, are you talking about AGI? Anyway, so Reddit, a lot of time and breath is spent arguing these things. So tools in a loop to achieve a goal is a useful definition. So an LLM agent runs tools in a loop to achieve a goal. Let's break that down. The tools in a loop definition has been popular for a while. Anthropic in particular have settled on that one. So they did probably about a year ago a really good article. Anthropic, who made Claude, defined what agents were. This is a pattern baked into many LLM APIs as tools or function calls. The LLM, large language model, is given the ability to request actions to be executed by its harness, and the outcome of those tools is fed back into the model so it can continue to reason through and solve the given problem. So over the last year, 2 years or so, we have like chains of thought and reasoning models. That's because an LLM, large language model, will create an output, but then that's fed back in and it goes through again. So we are looping through different requests basically, whereas previously in the early ones you would ask a question or you'd put in a sentence and you'd get one answer. Now they go through loops, and that is when it says it is thinking, that is what it's doing basically in the background. But then we need an additional condition for this definition to work, which is to achieve a goal. These are not infinite loops. There is a stopping condition. I debated whether to specify a goal set by a user. I decided that's not a necessary part of this definition. We already have sub-agent patterns where another LLM sets the goal. Fair. there remains an almost unlimited set of alternative definitions. If you talk to people outside of the technical field of building with LLMs, you are still likely to encounter travel agent analogies or employee replacement or excitable uses of the word autonomous. In these contexts, it's important to clarify the definition that they are using in order to have a productive conversation. So he then goes on and he talks about unhelpful definitions. So agents as a human replacement is the least favorite definition. So if you talk to non-technical business folks, you may encounter a depressingly common alternative definition. Agents are replacements for human staff. This often takes the form of customer support agents. So yeah, chatbots that we use for customer support, which is a big use case. But you'll often see cases where people assume that there should be marketing agents, sales agents, accounting agents, and more. You see this a lot on Twitter with people saying, hey, I built this company using a set of agents, and they will have specific agents for each of these roles, and they talk to each other and apparently come to decisions with each other. Maybe that's something we can do in the future, but I would challenge any of them to show me that working and actually building a business. If someone surveys Fortune 500s about their agent strategy, there's a good chance that this is what's being implied, basically replacing human beings. Good luck getting a clear, distinct answer from them to the question, what is an agent, though? So that's one of the poor definitions. He also points at OpenAI, and I think this is a big issue. I had this recently. I have a video on TikTok that I think it's gone to like 250,000 views, and it was about their agent mode. Now, it's confusing because their agent mode is not really an agent. So OpenAI need to get their story straight. The single biggest source of agent definition confusion I'm aware of is OpenAI themselves. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is fond of calling agents AI systems that can do work for you independently. So that's a bit like the human replacement, which is not a helpful definition. Back in July, OpenAI launched a product feature called ChatGPT Agent. This is the one I did a video on, which is actually a browser automation system. Toggle that option on in ChatGPT and it can launch a real web browser and use it to interact with web pages directly. That's what it does. The example that I showed was you can send an agent, I have to scare quote this one, off to find coupon codes, discount codes. It will go to lots of websites, find those coupon codes, and then it can go to the sales website and test out the coupon code. Very cool, really useful. I had somebody in my chat saying they saved $480 on I think it was a Surface Pro Microsoft thing. So it's a really useful thing to do. Is it an agent? Not necessarily. So Simon is saying it's a browser automation system. Yep. So highly recommend checking out this article. I will put this in the newsletter. Make sure you're signed up to the newsletter and I will give you the link. But generally, Simon is one of those people. There's not many of them. I'd say Ethan Mollick, Nate B. Jones, Simon Willison. That's probably my big three. People who are not only extremely knowledgeable about AI, but they can explain it. And they can talk in non-technical language and explain why this stuff is important. They would be my big three. So Ethan Mollick, Simon Willison, and Nate B. Jones. I'm sure you guys follow a lot of them already. I'd love to know if there are other people I should be following or I've missed off that list. But they're the big three for me. So awesome. I will put that in the newsletter tomorrow so you can go and read it in detail because it's a good article. I'll also put the Peter Yang article back in there again, as well as everything else that we have covered over this session. The newsletter for today will actually come out on Monday because of the weekend. But make sure you're signed up there. Also, subscribe on YouTube, please and thank you. We are growing extremely fast now, which I'm excited about. We are at, what are we at? Nearly at 5,000. So 4,724. So we're gaining a couple of hundred subscribers a day. Really, really, really cool. As I've mentioned before in the other lives, YouTube is a slog where you get absolutely nothing for months and months and months. This is, I'm about to hit this is the 55th live. So I've been doing this for 11 weeks. So it's nearly 3 months doing this every single day, editing it, getting it out onto YouTube, and it's taken 3 months before it suddenly hockey sticked. So if you are creating content, hell, if you're doing anything that is hard, if you're writing a book, if you're building a business, if you're creating content, doesn't matter what it is, realize that these things always take longer than you think. But also realize that that slog, that difficulty, that is what removes the rest of the competition, because most people will do it for a few days, or they'll do it for a week, and they'll be like, oh, this is hard, I'm going to do something else. It's your staying power and your ability to just keep chugging along. That is where the rewards are. Unfortunately, it's the hard way. But anything that's too easy is generally not worth doing, because it means everyone could do it, and it means that the rewards from doing so are very, very limited. This is what I have to tell myself when I'm doing something like building a new YouTube channel. But finally, as of last Thursday, so a week ago, it just hockey sticked up. And that is the same for anything hard that you do. So just keep going. If you are feeling that right now in one of your projects, just keep going. Well, have the rest of the weekend, then Monday keep going. Awesome. Congrats on the YouTube growth. Your hard work is paying off. Yeah, thankfully. It is hard when you're putting in a lot of hard work and you don't see any results, because the assumption is, no, this is not working, I should be doing something else. But then you end up like flip-flopping and never sticking to any one strategy, and therefore it won't work. And I see this so many times with people with business ideas, for example. They'll launch a business idea, they're working it for a month or two, they don't get any traction, they're like, oh, it's terrible, and then they will change to something else. So they're not giving it enough time to breathe. It happens so often, because we like to have instant feedback, basically. Awesome. So I'm gonna finish this one up and hop over to my other live, which is going to be building in public. Where are we? I've forgotten where we are on that live. I always do. I need to start taking notes. But we're building an application. We're going from an idea to a launch within 30 days. That's the plan. Today is day 15, so we are halfway through. Should be ready for a beta launch very shortly. I have started to complicate it and add more features, which I told myself I would not do, but we're nearly there. So I'll see you on that live stream shortly. Thank you, everybody, and have a lovely weekend. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed for the newsletter as well. It's all free, and I will see you either in the next live in a few minutes or next week. Thanks, everyone.